If you're anything like me, dental insurance isn't something you think about a lot. However, when the unexpected happens, it can help you avoid a costly dentist bill. Spirit Dental and Vision has dental plans that offer affordable rates and no waiting periods for major services. That means you can get coverage for major services like dental implants, crowns, and bridges right away instead of waiting months for your coverage to kick in. Spirit makes it easy to find the dental plan that's right for you. With other plans, you could run into high deductibles, long waiting periods, and expensive procedures might not even be covered. Plus, for a limited time, Spirit is waiving the $25 application fee. Just use promo code SPIRIT2020 at checkout. If you're looking for dental coverage made easy, visit spiritdental.com/pod to gain a little peace of mind. That's spiritdental.com/pod to get a quote in about 60 seconds. spiritdental.com/pod.
The following is a Hoop Ball presentation. Welcome to the Fantasy NBA Today podcast.
Oh man, people, do we have a show for you today? Oh, good day to you all. A happy Friday. This is Fantasy NBA Today, a hoop ball presentation. I am your host, Dan Bespris. You can follow me on Twitter at Dan Bespris. I think I've told you that before. At DANBESBRIS, or just Google search Dan from Hoop Ball. It's important. Please do follow me on Twitter. We do a lot of stuff on social media, including recruiting. By the way, big thank you again to all the DFS folks that have reached out over the last couple of days. I'll continue to put that recruiting call out there into the ether this weekend. If you are a big DFSer and you think you've got what it takes to jump over onto the pro side and do some podcasting and do some writing and help other people win at DFS in any sport, basketball, football, baseball, whatever you got, hit me up at Dan Bespris on Twitter or email teamhoopball@hoop-ball.com. Today, by the way, is also officially last call for hoop ball leagues. We did ultimately end up opening 3 leagues with folks from the wait list, but this is it because we're running out of time now. The season starts 11 days from today, and these are slow drafts, so we can't really open up any more after this weekend. This is it. If you want to be in a hoop ball league, we have 9-category roto and head-to-head. We have cash and free. The wait list is filling up, and if it hits 12 people for any one particular format, we will open a new league of that format. But this is it. If you don't send me a note over the next probably 24 to 36 hours, it's closed for the year. We can, however, continue to put you on the wait list. That would get you an email when we open them up for next season. So there is always a reason. Again, that's at Dan Bespris, DANBESBRIS, or email teamhoopball@hoop-ball.com. Hoopball you can follow by the website, hoop-ball.com, or at hoopballfantasy on Twitter. Let me tell you what's coming up on today's show. That's going to get you all a Twitter. It's a weird expression to use now that Twitter is an actual thing, an old-timey expression. We have 2 of the biggest names, not 1, 2 of the biggest names in fantasy sports, arguably ever. One of them more of a long time, a legend of the game. The other, slightly newer, of this decade, and one of the biggest names in fantasy podcasting. Yes, today we have Aaron Bruski and Josh Lloyd on the same podcast. Not together, back-to-back interviews that I do with each of them in what could be, this could be the biggest show that we ever do. In addition, I get a sleeper out of Brew and 2 out of Josh. So 3 sleepers on today's show. We're breaking down mock draft results with Josh Lloyd. We're breaking down a little more Bruski 150 with Aaron. That's where the sleeper comes from. We're breaking down some season win totals with Aaron. Some stuff we've got going on that front. Announcement on the Brews letter, which we told you about yesterday. Just a I mean, again, just an absolute whopper of a show. Before we dive into any of that stuff, I want to remind all of you guys that the Bruski 150 can be acquired. It can be yours for the low, low price of $4.99 a month. $4.99 a month in the Fantasy Pass. That is over at hoop-ball.com. Please do go get yourself a Fantasy Pass. It's amazing. It's got the B150, the Draft Guide, the DFS Pass, which dropped today. They have our preseason stuff going now officially. It's rolling. And all in-season tools here at hoop-ball.com. That's all in the Fantasy Pass for $4.99. As I said yesterday, just skip one order in. Cook yourself a dinner instead of ordering in just one time, and you can afford that Fantasy Pass for the entire NBA season. But I don't want to make you guys wait. This is not a day for waiting. Here we go. He's back. 2 weeks in a row, man. This is the most frequent we have podcasted together since the aughts, I think. I think it's been that long. So I have to say hello the only way I know hi. Arv Arv.
Hello, Dan Besbris. How the hell are you?
Boy, we're having a banner day in the Besbris household. You know, just discovering fun things about infants. How are you, big dog? It's nice to talk to you for a couple weeks in a row here.
You know, first of all, I got to say thank you to everybody out there. You know, there's moments in movies when, like, there was one in the Social Network when they like hit a certain mark with their customer base, and we're like having those moments over here, and so it's pretty fun, and with it comes like a lot of different challenges, you know, customer management, things like that. So yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy right now. So there's the business side of this, and now we're just getting into basically preseason, and the news is like ready to tip. I think the next 2 weeks are going to be something we haven't ever seen, in terms of news, in terms of adjusting ranks, adjusting, you know, projections, being ready for drafts, being in drafts. I'm in a ton of drafts right now, so draft management is a thing. You know, it's a thing that you got to be good at. So it's just a lot right now, and you know, both of us have small children, so
yeah, it's been an interesting year for small children. Also, this is the type of year where, you know, we're like that halftime act where they've got the 9 or the like 25 plates all balancing on the end of a stick. That's fantasy analysts at large right now, trying to get everything in line leading up to the season. By the way, he is Aaron Bruski. He is El Arquitecto, the founder of Hoopball, hoop-ball.com. We have 3 things on the docket today for this, and we're going to try to do each of them in 6 minutes and 40 seconds, and we're going to fail spectacularly. Spectacularly. Yeah, each. Good luck to us on that. I don't think we've ever done a thing, you and I talking on a show in less than like 22 minutes.
Let me tell you my thoughts on BBC America.
Did we talk about that last time? The fact that you now do all your work to a muted BBC America in the background?
Dude,
I think we did.
Yeah, we did, and I took us off track with that last time that we talked. Judge Dredd.
Judge Dredd. That's a quality film. Stallone and Rob Schneider.
BBC America, get on it. It's weird. It's just
awesome.
Like a weirdly different movie, but they'll show it like twice in a row, and then they'll do some other movie twice in a row, and then they come back to that other movie. So if you watch it on mute and you don't watch it, it's great. Like I pick up little pieces. Like I'm kind of up to speed on Judge Dredd.
As well, you should be. That's the quality 90s action programming, with 2 completely mismatched.
Rob Schneider's in it. He
Rob
plays
Schneider,
a hero at the end.
And Armand Asante.
For you guys, but he's the hero at the end.
Armand Asante is in that movie. Armand Asante.
You know who's also in it is Diane Lane is in it. As the actress.
I forgot about that. I totally forgot about that. Yeah, you guys all need to go watch Judge Dredd.
She brings a gravitas to the film that Stallone can't keep up with.
That is really... You know, you were talking
Stallone
about...
is at his peak roids. You know, like he is like veins bulging out of his neck that have their own zip code.
Yeah. Well, you had to be if you're going to be the law. And as we all know, he was the law in that film.
He was also very ill-tempered. Like
He
was not. If you were to be giving somebody like that kind of power, don't give it to him. He can't handle it. He just started blowing people up left and right, no reason.
Yeah, he seemed a bit imbalanced, but that was his thing. Oh, that was by the way, if you heard something crashing in the background, that was my wife dropping a phone. That's what's happening around here right now. Things just crashing. Our pets' heads are falling off. But okay. First of all, you can follow Aaron on Twitter at Aaron Bruski, Bruski. I actually have 4 things now that I thought about a 4th one, but this was a quick one. We unveiled earlier this week the return of the Bruise letter. So, how are your fingers, man? You ready for a little, what is it? What did you have last year? It was like 8,000 word email blasts every once in a while. That was, that almost broke you.
Yeah. I'm not a young man anymore. So I'm going to look for ways to cut that down. What I always liked doing, I started this at Roto World and kept it going through here, is just like on a Wednesday night and there's 13 games, I was going to break down all of them. And it turned into, might as well just break down the whole league while I'm at it, from a fantasy perspective. Last year we did a lot of stuff with reality basketball, had a little space there for just like whatever I wanted to talk about on day-to-day life. Did some Kings coverage. I'm going to probably scale back the Kings coverage this year. I say that with a question mark just because there are other interesting teams I probably would prefer to give my time to. But they're always such a, bleep show that it's possible I get sucked back in.
Yeah, rubbernecking's fun, man. Rubbernecking is fun. Sometimes
that's what rubbernecking has been like. Kings fans have been like prepping for 2020 for like all of the 2000s.
Oops.
They have been going through it, and being somebody that's covered them through a lot of that, they are going through this. They go through this like mental emotional thing because it's always dysfunctional. They always do the stupidest thing that you could pick, and they constantly are trying to talk themselves into that this is a good idea, and so they're getting torn back and forth between the different things. Now they obviously got a new GM, and we'll see if ownership can sort of get out of their way and let them do their thing, which has been one of the key issues there. But we'll talk some Kings. We'll talk. It'll be very fantasy specific, I think, this year, just because 8,000 words takes a lot, man.
Yeah,
it really is, and it's you don't really see a lot of 8,000 word anything these days. Fantasy owners, though, it's like if you're trying to get caught up to date on the entire league. And you just, what I've always done with all of my fantasy sports is like I've always wanted to find the best analysts in a given sport. For football, it's Evan Silva. I always say that. And I just want to read everything they write. And Evan would always do his breakdown columns on Thursdays before the Sunday games. And he basically did what I was doing. And just these big behemoth articles. But you read every word because you needed to know what those matchups were. You needed to get that intel.
Well,
so it works in fantasy.
Yeah, and
it doesn't work in most things.
I don't want you to get a swollen head or anything here, but it's important to hear what the most important people in a field are saying about guys. Your word carries weight, and that's the nicest thing I'm going to say to you on a podcast ever. So don't get too used to it. By the way,
why are you so defensive here?
I will not be vulnerable for everyone to hear. The bit.ly link, I was made fun of for calling it bit.ly because I'm a very old man. The bit.ly link is bit.ly /BruiseLetter 2021, but it's not spelled like your last name. It's BREUS, like newsletter, but with BR on the front. So bit.ly /BruiseLetter 2021. You can sign up there. The only place that you can get this is effectively like the Bruski breakdown for a new generation. It's the only place you can get it is on that email list. So sign up for the Hoopball email list. We'll also have some other stuff that gets fired your way over the course of the calendar year. And so that's kind of exciting. But I don't want to spend too much time on that. I can hype the Brews letter. I wanted to just get your quick thoughts on it. The three main things I brought you on today was, one, quick B150 update for those that listened to us talk about it last week, kind of the methodology, what you do to build it. Now we're at a point, like you said, where you're starting to take information and adjust to the B150. So how do you tweak that between now and the run-up to the season? Because nothing is static in the NBA, as we've seen in a big way over the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, it's an undertaking. It's got probably about like 10 different axes that it operates on. Some of it is confidence, like you go into the preseason with your sets of expectations, and you just start to see little nibbles at something you thought. It might help your case. It might hurt your case, the case that you're making in your projections and your outcomes. So, I mean, you get into this, and especially this year, it's just this condensed, what are we, 13 days away from?
Oh, yeah, by the way,
right?
pulling back the curtain, you guys will hear this 11 days from the start of the season.
Oh,
we're recording
God.
at 13 before,
I just, a lot of this, Dan, you do this. I know you do this. You told me last night you do this, or maybe today. It's like you just put the blinders on.
Oh, yeah.
And you just block everything else out.
One thing at a time.
Because
I can't do two things at the same time.
In the case of B150, it's just like I have my process. I go through that process. The news comes in. It enters that process. On the outside, and then the next step is basically the adjustments. And there is all sorts of noise. There's your own drafts. There's, running a company. There's life stuff that's going on. Luckily, I got a lot of that stuff figured out. So I'm efficient with all of this. And that's what happens after a decade. But it's crazy. And usually this will all happen over like 20, 30 days. And, so as this stuff happens, there's a confidence aspect to it. There's just like a hardcore breaking news aspect to it. There's individual level projections that are going to change based on different circumstances. So you're going to see some movement, and you're going to see, as we go here, it's going to be buckle up time. There's a lot of different situations around the league where I'll be honest, I don't know where they're going to spin. I need one or two or three more pieces of information. And that's before we even talk about like film. Like we can sit here and look at film, for a preseason game, and I can look at somebody and I go, okay, that person is either completely out of shape or they did get the proverbial 15 pounds of muscle, and this is going to impact their play. So all that stuff, man, it's all going down, and I just cannot believe that it's 13 days away from opening night, which means that, preseason is happening in 7 days? Over the course
2.
of 7 days?
Yeah. It'll actually, by the time people are listening to this pod, the preseason will be starting today. This is airing Friday. The preseason
will be weird too, because
half the people are
they're
out
going to want to
getting
get
tested.
guys out on the floor, but they're also not going to want to hurt them. You're going to see a lot of first week action that sucks in this league.
Yes, you are.
Because they're not in shape.
Continuity is a good thing to look at if we're going to get into betting. We're not on today's show, but we will.
Well, even for fantasy, it's a big deal. And I built a lot of that into a lot of different assumptions. So you're going to see, I think, more movement in the B150 throughout the next, say, 7-8 days that you would typically see in a B150 over the same time period. But that's what I knew this was going to be the case as we started. And, I haven't seen it kind of prove itself because we literally got to start those preseason games. But I think this next week is just going to be wild.
That leads me to two things, and then we'll move to our second topic. Thing number one, keep checking your B150. If you have a subscription already, when we tell you, either on the podcast or by Twitter or whatever, that there's been an update, go look at it, because there's a methodology to this. You want to follow what Brew is doing as guys get shifted up and down based on new information. And two, if you don't have it, the Fantasy Pass remains $4.99 a month. The Fantasy Pass has the Bruski 150, the Draft Guide, the DFS Pass, and all in-season tools. That's all over at hoop-ball.com. Second thing for us to talk about, Brew, in our quick hit today. We're going lightning round as best I can, and this is a challenge. I virtually slap you across the face with my glove. We're throwing it down, man. Season win totals. Yeah, gasp. Clutch your pearls, sir. Or madam. I don't know. Who clutches pearls? Clutch your pearls, madam. It's going down,
I can
man.
clutch my pearls if I want to.
Yeah. I actually have no problem with that. Clutch away. We're going head-to-head this year. Season win total bets in the NBA. You ready?
This is the first thing that's intimidated me in a while, Dan.
I'm petrified. But you know I'm just going to joke about it at the end, whether I win or lose. That's the Dan Bespris anti-poop talking method.
I don't like. Yeah, well, actually, I was going to say I don't like that. To each their own. It's probably better because I need less people to talk trash with right now.
I've never talked trash. I don't think I've ever talked trash in my life.
Like I got a guy in my one of my high stakes leagues. It's a little bit of a high profile guy right now. Just talking trash like it's nobody's business. And I swear I beat that guy every year. Like every year I beat that guy. And he owes me money from the last bet he made that I beat him on. And so my big point is I need less people talking trash in my life.
Well, fear not.
So thank you, Dan.
Because I don't. I go the psychological warfare route, where instead of getting right up in people's faces, I try to mess with their way they think about things. That's my move. It's very subtle. I like people to
the puppet master.
Yeah. I like people to feel bad when they beat me and pitiful when they lose to me. That's my move. Is try to make you feel bad either way.
I beat you, and then I question my career.
That's my move. So
bad.
I guess what I should do is also tell people what I'm talking about every year, and this is generally playful, but we're gonna have some fun with it. Brew and I put out season win total predictions on the NBA. This is betting side for all 30 teams. Now, don't bet all 30 teams. Don't bet them all. But we have basically.
You'd win.
Yeah, actually, that's true. Because sometimes I have a really confident play. I lose.
Do it. Don't also listen to Dan on everything he says here. Don't listen to me. He's
that's
number
not
one.
True.
I'm number two.
That's not true, though. We've both been very good at these because, I mean, for better or worse,
you're like really good. I'm just like going in there like I'm I can run a 40 and I can like run through people, but I have no moves. Like
basketball.
I need to be taught things. I'm a raw rookie.
But that's the beauty of season win totals is like you don't need to know every intricate detail of how sports betting works. All you need to be able to do is see basketball and kind of understand what a storyline is about a team and whether or not it matches reality. So what we're going to do, Brew, for the first time ever, you and I are putting out a joint written piece that'll probably be coming next week, if I had to guess. Does that sound right?
I think so. We're waiting on a couple things, but we'll go with next week sometime.
So that'll be coming out at some point next week. It'll have our leans on all 30 season NBA win totals. If you want the actual plays, the ones that Brew and I are actually betting.
Well, nobody has them up.
Right.
That's one of the big problems here.
We've both been using lines from the Circa, which were given to me by a friend of the program, Gil Alexander. Like, my bookie doesn't have them up yet, but if you can find them, you can go bet them.
Bovada. I'm sure they're up somewhere, but I can't find them, and I don't have time to look.
Yeah, and I don't want to have like 9 different accounts open. It's good to have a few looking for the best line, but you gotta have a pretty damn big bankroll if you're going to split it across like 10 to 15 different online sports books or something like that. But it's going to be great. We're putting out a joint article, leans on all 30 teams. Our actual top plays will be part of the Wager Pass and Hoopball 360 packages. You can also check those out at hoop-ball.com. But Brew,
why don't you tell them how much you've won on these things?
You're going down, Brew. You're going down. I think I'm like
seriously, like listeners. Dan. I have my record,
I think you're beating me, aren't you?
48-29 the year before last.
Oh, is that in all NBA plays or just totals?
That was just the win totals.
Is that how many years is that? 48-29.
That was just that was units.
Okay.
16-8.
But that's basically what I did. I just made picks on all 30, and I think I went 20-10 one year and 19-11 the next. And then this last year was, didn't count. I'm pretty upset about it because my Oklahoma City and Toronto Raptors wagers were the easiest bets I think I've made in my life. But here's the thing. I actually think we're both quite good at this. We're going to be taking shots at one another and playfully. And I think people can learn a ton. And I hope that it teaches people about betting and season win totals. And we're just going to have a blast. And so keep an eye out for
the
that.
Listeners like this. Dan sent me a sample of what he wrote because I was like, we're going to just do a little thing here, right? And this thing was like one of the best things I ever read.
Oh, well, let's not oversell it. I'm no poet.
I was like, F you, Dan. Now I got to write good? Okay.
Yeah.
Or well, I'm a writer.
Don't correct yourself. That was perfect.
Because I went to a school for kids who write good or something.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Oh man. Well, this is going to be so much fun though. This is a big moment.
Learning, like, you're going to get, I mean, like, honestly, we're giving away stuff like on the premium side based on how we write about these things. But it's like, it's how you know whether a team or even players are going to do well. And there's a ton of stuff there. So highly recommend you check it out.
I wonder how many words we're going to get when we roll our stuff together. That's going to be a pretty good beefer, isn't it?
I was at like 225 or 3,000.
How do you find that out quickly? Can I do that while we're on air? Where's the tool in Microsoft Word to find that?
It's right at the bottom of the page.
Oh.
Yeah.
No, that can't be right. 6,900? Did I really do 6,900?
Mine says, go to bed, you crazy MFer.
Did I really? No, I didn't write 6,900 words, did I? That was dumb. Why did I spend so much time on that?
See how it happens?
That's too much writing.
You gotta talk to Steve Alexander over at Roto-World about the length of my articles and the fights we would have about that. And I don't know if you heard. He texted me the other night. He's like, "Dude, you got to hear this." He was He was talking in his sleep, and his wife recorded it. So they opened their pod with that. He was literally talking about draft picks in his sleep.
It had to be Luca if it's Steve.
It
right?
wasn't Luca, but it was like he was talking about it. He's like, I was we're dreaming about me and Ryan having a draft that nobody showed up to, and it was just the two of us. He said something in this. He's like, two-man draft.
That's outstanding.
So,
man.
I don't know. This is how we can't go 15 minutes. You signed me up for these 15-minute segments.
I said 20.
I'm pretty sure you're doing this to hold me down.
I think I said 20 today, and we're actually like right around the 20-minute mark.
All right, so this is how I get out of not giving out a sleeper.
Nope, can't do it. I promised last week that I was going to berate you until you gave one out. It's a tradition as old as time.
Berate me, Dan.
All right, Brew, I need one. Give me something. Give me something.
Not insulting enough, Dan.
Oh, all right. Well, I'm just going to. Well, I didn't say I was going to belittle you. I just said I was going to yell at you.
Okay, gotcha.
Come on.
I got the two mixed up.
You're a real butthead, Brew. Please give us a juicy one. Give us one. Every year we do this. It's like the week and a half, 2 weeks before the season starts. You're on the pod, and I yell at you until you give out something juicy from the B150.
Well, this is why we were, aside from the landscaper that was about to threaten this podcast.
Yeah, they went away. That was nice.
Yeah, they're quick workers. They they love it. We don't have grass.
What were they mowing? Sorry, go ahead.
They literally mow the dirt. Not kidding, because we were some combination of things not to fix the water system, and we were like, it'll rain at some point. Anyway, I digress. This one's tough, man, because there's like, I don't know, 20 candidates for the HB6, which we're probably going to rework just to maybe add a couple players. I don't know. We'll decide that in a couple days. I was about to say weeks, days. So there's a lot, man. There's a lot. There's I want to say like 5 to 10 half draft jumpers.
Wow.
Yeah, it's crazy. So you're like, okay, who am I going to give away? And I
got to be judicious. Got to be a good one, but you got to be judicious. What's it going to be, man?
Yeah. So I wanted somebody who has a shot at the HB6, but is not, hello, email notification, is not just like blowing it out of the water. I mean, there's a couple that are just like, whoa, they're not being drafted. I want
juicy, man.
The top 75.
Give me that fillet. Give me that fillet, man.
I'm not giving you that fillet.
Don't hold out. Give me the damn.
I'm giving you Burger King.
Give me a porterhouse at least.
No. Actually, this is. Well, these picks that this player kind of exemplifies.
Oh, I like this. You're dancing around it. This is good.
Yeah, of course.
Coy.
these picks that,
So coy.
that sort of exemplify one of the higher level challenges of drafts is like, okay, we all know about this guy, right? So can we not only get the player, but beat the hype and still have value?
Ooh.
So that was Bam Adebayo last year. Everybody knew about him, but nobody wanted to climb quite as high as us because they lack huevos. And but that's the name of this game, because if we talk about players that are hyped up all day long. So I picked Jeremy Grant, and a lot of people saw what Detroit did this offseason, and they were just like, what are they doing? This team's going to be terrible. And you look at that roster, and it's just this collection of misfit toys, all over it.
We used to refer to ourselves as that in our Bakersfield Blaze staff. We called ourselves the Misfit Toys. But, I mean, did you just quietly slip in the name there in the middle of a longer sentence? You did, didn't you?
Who were we even talking about? I don't even know.
I lost track.
Point is like, I don't think people realize how good Jeremy Grant is. Like, I think that they didn't watch.
Oh.
Which is where gaming and gambling, we watched every single game in the bubble.
Jeremy.
Yeah. Oh, did it cut out? It's Jeremy.
No, it didn't cut out. You were just so calm about it. You're just so calm. Oh. It's like, yeah, I don't think people know enough about Jeremy. You gotta, come on, man, make a stink.
I'm making a stink, man. He's
right,
good. He's good. So there were times in the playoffs when Denver needed a bucket, and Jokic couldn't do it, Murray couldn't do it, and then they would turn to Jeremy freaking Grant. And you're sitting there thinking, you watched him play all year long, and you're like, okay, he's definitely good. And we've been on Jeremy Grant forever. He's been, I think, he's definitely been a high B150 guy in the past. But he turned in some buckets where he had extremely good defense played against him, and he took shots that you were not taking unless you were supremely confident. Your teammates had confidence in you, and the fact of the matter was that they needed them. So for him to go out there and take the kind of we're talking like off the dribble, 6 dribbles, offhand, contested jump shot that's tough. And he's taking them like, whoa, man. Okay, so you do think you are, at least a number 2 or a number 3 option on offense. And when he was making those shots, I said he was gone. I knew Denver couldn't afford him anymore. And they could, aside from not being able to afford him, they also couldn't give him the shots that he needed. So when he goes to Detroit and they have what is just this collection of, a lot of low usage guys, you got unproven guys, you got guys that are going to defer, and they sold him on this idea that you are going to be the primary scorer on offense. And they got Derrick Rose and things like that, but there are not enough shots for him to go overboard on that team. So he's going to go basically fully flex, and he will, despite the fact that everybody knows about the big contract and they know that he's going to be more valuable this year than in previous years, he's not going early. His ADP is in I think
it's 100.
90s.
It's 100 on Yahoo right now, 101. And Yahoo's season projections have him at 95, I believe. Which
he's I would bet the house. I mean, barring some weird ass injury that doesn't count. He will exceed that number, no matter what. Guaranteed. I mean, and then it's not even close. So it's basically just like a guaranteed profit if you pick him before 100 or you pick him before 90, 8 or 9 cat.
It's kind of nice, too, to know that Yahoo actually doesn't, when I do my ADP versus projection analysis with Yahoo, you can usually tell what direction a guy's ADP is going to move based on Yahoo's pre-ranks, because you get the early stuff from the diehards, and then it moves towards Yahoo's number. His number is 95. His ADP is 101, so it doesn't seem like it's going that far.
And we got a short ramp here, so we have 11 days.
It's crazy. It's absolutely out of this world.
Seriously,
I didn't even have to berate you that much.
I don't think anybody can move in their ADP anymore. Like, we're at the time where, like, everybody's so scrambled up with what their beliefs are. They're, like, I just don't think the market can move fast enough to really react and respond. And that's why when everything sort of kind of came down the pipeline and they said December 22nd was a season start date, aside from like a big old, like, deep breath, I was like, this is great. Like, just keep piling on the degrees of difficulty.
Yeah, you got the two hands thing where you're like, well, I'm going to be dead at the end of this stretch, but I'm also going to win a lot of stuff. So win? That's a positive?
Yeah. So, like, I mean, you're asking me for a sleeper, and I'm like, I mean, sleeper is a term that, we probably got to figure out as
get rid of it
industry.
But nobody's on board with my petition to remove sleeper from the nomenclature. So you just
bought in.
I just bought in. I just gave up. I quit. I quit on it. Brew, I'm sending you away now because I'm well over the 20 minutes I promised. I think we're at like 32 or something like that. You got us a sleeper. I didn't have to berate you that much. Heads up for the Brews letter later this month, likely. A heads up for our joint season win total article. Heads up for the Bruski 150 update. He is at Aaron Bruski on Twitter. The big dog himself. We'll talk to you soon. Yeah, bark his way out. Later, dude.
Later.
The great Aaron Bruski. Well, that was fun. And we are only half done here on Fantasy NBA for this incredible weekend episode. Want to remind all of you guys, Brew and I talked about season win totals. All of our sports betting is brought to you by mybookie.ag. Mybookie.ag. You bet, you win, they pay. I have done the cashing out procedure with them. That's one of the big questions I get from folks that are like, should I use this website? It's super easy. I got my money in 3 days. I know that sounds like to folks that haven't done this before, they're like, 3 days? I got to wait. It used to be like you had to make photocopies of 3 types of ID and mail it to some weird offshore location in the Caribbean. Yeah, it's not like that anymore. You can get it out by e-check in a week. You can get it out by Bitcoin in 2 days. And Bitcoin, by the way, I'm learning a bit about it. It's quite simple. Anyway, mybookie.ag, sign up for an account today with promo code HOOPBALL, so that way you get all the goodies attached to it. We'll have odds boost stuff we talk about here on this podcast, and our Hoopball gaming guys are just rumbling along. And then Brew and I, obviously, we're going to dive in here as NBA gets going. So this is going to be a lot of fun. Join us over at mybookie.ag. DM me on Twitter. I may have a promo for you when you're getting started that's outside the realm of what they do offer on that website. So again, that's mybookie.ag. Promo code is HoopBall. Interview number 2. You shan't wait another moment. Here's Josh Lloyd. These visits are always among my favorites because this is the man who has the fantasy podcast, the one that we all sort of, frankly, we aspire to be. So these are always cool ones for me. The great Josh Lloyd, RedRock_B-Ball on Twitter, back for our preseason chat. Josh, what's going on, man?
Hey, Dan, how are
you? You're the pod man. You're the pod man. That was me in the sports betting world 11 years ago, and that's you in the fantasy world. I've never asked you this.
Visit Hellsberg.com for safe and easy ways to shop this holiday, like free shipping and returns, virtual shopping appointments, or buy online and pick up in store. And right now, get a free Microsoft Surface Go 2 with the purchase of $1,499 or more. You gift, you get. Limited time offer while supplies last. See online or in store for details.
Before, what does it feel like to kind of be the fantasy basketball pioneer, the guy who kind of like broke it through where it became a much more mainstream thing to do?
I don't really ever think of myself that way. I appreciate you saying that, but I don't really ever think that. I don't ever see myself as being someone who broke anything through. I just try and get out here and do something that's entertaining, information or informative and educational, and I don't know. I just try and do the best that I can, and people seem to enjoy it. But I never think of myself that way. It's the first I've ever heard someone reference me that way, so I appreciate it.
Well, no, it's my pleasure because I feel like I'm kind of following in your footsteps a little bit, or at least trying to. I don't know. There are a lot of basketball and fantasy basketball podcasts that are out there, and I feel like maybe I'm wrong about this, but I feel like one of the things that you did that I've also tried to do is just outlast on the attrition side. Like you did 7 shows a week for a long time. A lot of shows just taper off after a few weeks because it's not easy to do a show every day.
No, it's not. I've ticked over 2,000 total episodes the other day. So yeah, I've been doing it a fair bit.
That's a lot of episodes.
It is, yeah. It's a lot. So we're like, this is the 8th season of the podcast, and we're 2,000 episodes deep. Wow. But you're right, like just trying to be consistent and try and provide well thought out and sometimes entertaining information, but you're doing it on a consistent basis so people know that it's there, and it's people seem to enjoy it.
Do you have the first few episodes you've done? Have you listened back to them recently?
I do not. I do not have any. I regularly delete episodes off my hard drive.
I'm with you on that too.
If there's 2,000 of them, there's not enough space to keep all that stuff there. So no, I don't have those episodes. I don't even think they exist anywhere.
I finally did that myself, like earlier this year. Not that I even really needed the hard drive space, but I was looking at some shows I did, and this show is only 4 years old, so I'm halfway between Zero and you, and it was weird. I felt like I sounded like a little kid, which doesn't make a ton of sense because it's not like, I mean, how much does a person change between what was I then, 33 and 37? It shouldn't be that different. I don't know, something about life, fantasy, children has grizzled me. It was really funny to listen back to and also a tiny bit embarrassing, and I think you're wise to have deleted yours. But anyway, we've got a mock draft to go over. I tried my hand at running a video mock, and it was not a complete disaster. It was imperfect, but nothing completely exploded. You were picked on during the draft, but not for any of your picks, but for being so laser focused. But I think you had your mic off, huh?
I did. Because I had my little puppy in here, and he was barking like a real little prick, and it would have taken everyone's attention on it. So I had to like turn off mic and yell at him and try and get him to settle down. He's in here with me now, and he's being a lot more calm. But in that mock, he was just he was barking a lot, and no one needed a little doggy yapping in everyone's ear.
I don't know. It's kind of like, I know that you're. By the way, I said this off air, but I'm very jealous that you're in a country that's not being obliterated by COVID right now, but it does sort of feel like it gives that same feeling. I think if everybody's mic was on the whole time, we would have heard like children. I know Jonas actually couldn't do the video side of that mock because he had 2 kids that were climbing all over him during the thing. And frankly, if we make it through this pod hit without my kid coming blasting in the bedroom, that'll also be a colossal victory. But the chat room really seemed to enjoy it. There were a few guys in there that were like, Josh is going to dominate you guys. He's laser focused right now. And you're like, no, by the way, spoiler alert, it's because my puppy was yelling at me. Let's start in the first round. Sorry, I didn't mean to digress on puppies. Pick number 5. You had the 5 slot, which I think is actually, and this is a 9-cat roto draft, by the way. 5 slot is a pretty good spot to be this year, isn't it? Because like, it seems like some guys that are maybe a little less tailored for 9 are going ultra early, and even without them, you've got your pick in that range of someone like a Steph or a Dame or a Jokic if you wanted to go that direction as well. Not a bad spot to be, and you also get a slightly better second rounder coming back. Yeah, look, I enjoy that spot. I think in a head-to-head league, I think there is a clear top 5, then there's a next 4, in my opinion. In a 9-cat roto, it does probably, or in a roto league in general, I probably look at it the other way and go, there's probably a top 4, then next 5 after that. So I was probably just outside the area I wanted to be, but one of my top 4 fell to number 5. So I think it's a win. I'm guessing, based on the names that went in front of you, the guy that went before you that you would have had behind you, is that Dame? Yeah. I had him just at the top of that next tier. Yeah. So he would have 5 or 6, but yeah, I had Steph pretty clearly in that top tier. So getting him at 5, when in a roto, I've probably got a 4-person top tier. It's a good start. It's a good win. I gotta say, man, I'm kind of scanning your team, and 5 of your first 6 picks could very easily be a Dan Besbris old man type of team, and so this is going to make it a relatively simple discussion we're having today. I love Steph. Are you at all worried that the Warriors? I mean, obviously the Klay Thompson thing kind of takes him out a little bit, but I get the feeling they want to run their guys this year. Is there anything about Steph and the Warriors that worries you? Not really. Like, I agree with you. I think they're going to be pushing pretty hard here because, Klay injury is obviously not great, but Steph's 32. Like, they know that they don't have a huge amount of time left
for to maximize what he does. Draymond's 30 plus. We're not talking about, we'll just do it for the next 5 years after this. Like it's this year, it's next year maybe. And who knows if Clay's ever going to be, he probably isn't, but who knows if he's ever going to be Clay again. So that's, they've got to push that now. So I'm not really all that concerned about them. We'll just take it easy. And Draymond will, become a part-time worker for another season. I don't think that's going to happen. So, and I'm pretty confident they're going to be pushing Steph to a level that maybe they haven't actually pushed him before.
I really like your second round pick as well. I'm honestly a little bit surprised that he is ending up in this range, and that's Paul George, who you got at 20. Everything, the storyline, this is one of those times where it feels like the perception and the story are running exactly against one another. This is a guy who's just been unilaterally panned since the playoffs, and he's made the news for a lot of wrong reasons. Nothing like extraordinarily bad, but just sort of things the general public wouldn't want to see. Taking shots at a former coach, disappearing acts, things like even hearing about something like having issues in the bubble as real and as I thought that was a good thing that came out. That makes people, I think, the perception of Paul George became worse. Last year he played the whole season banged up, and so he's falling into this 20 range. A 9 cat on a per game last year, he was 20 in what seemed like a worst case scenario. So instead of saying, how good could this be, I'm going to flip this question on its head and say, is there a world, Josh, where Paul George going at 20 doesn't work out, outside of catastrophic injury?
No, I can't say it. And this is one of my favorite trivia questions to ask people. I asked Matt Smith on my show a couple of weeks ago, how many minutes a game did Paul George play last year, Dan?
I'm guessing not as many as usual because he was coming back from injury the whole time.
29.6.
Oh, yeah, it's crazy low.
And as you said, he was ranked 20th in 29 minutes a game. So, are you projecting him to play 29 minutes a game? I'm not. So, give him 3 more minutes, and then that 20 rank is obliterated. So, I am absolutely all in on him at maybe even the end of the first round, probably the start of the second round, but at 20, it's an absolute no-brainer to me.
Yeah, I'm 100% with you.
And I don't like this guy. He annoys me unbelievably. I think he's really irritating.
Yeah, I agree.
He annoys me so much, but I don't care. If he's going to put up numbers, he's going to annoy me as much as he wants, as long as he does what he does last year, and then just give a couple of extra minutes, and then I think another win for me at that spot.
Yeah, can you yell at my listeners to please stop drafting or not drafting players based on whether you like them or not? There's money on the line here.
Oh, frustrates me so much. I do not care. I don't care if I like a player or, man, he's just so fun, or I hate this guy, or he let me. Who cares? Like if he does you good things. I'm trying to put words out here. If he does good things for you, I don't care how irritating this bloke can be or how much people don't like him or anything like that. Oh man, James Harden flops. Yeah, that's cool. He flops his way to being the number 1 player for 5 straight years. So I'll flop my way into having him as a number 1 player again. It doesn't worry me in the slightest.
Yeah, exactly. Just don't watch the game if you don't want to see how he gets there. Look at the box score. It looks great at the end of it. Paul George, by the way, just to remind everybody, in OKC the previous year, he played 77 out of 82 games, averaged 37 minutes a game, if I'm reading that right. Is that possible the previous year? Or is he's not going to do that this year, but no. Yes, he did average that 2 years ago. Oh, my God. And he was the 3rd player in 9-cat that year. 3rd. And he's going at 20 now because he played injured last year. That's a mind-boggling thing. Your 3rd round pick at pick 29 is another guy. So tell me if you were surprised about this. Rudy Gobert. I didn't give the name. I should. That would make it easier to talk about the player. I thought he was going to fall farther than late 20s, early 30s this year. I thought people were pretty soured on him, even though his season really wasn't that bad last year. He was 33rd by averages. He was far better than that by totals. I don't know. Something about his season and then the COVID stuff at the end, I thought he might be a guy who fell into the mid to late 30s, which would have made him an insane value. Where he is now, he feels like a pretty safe 3rd round pick. Yeah, now, in a second, I want to go back and talk to you about people not liking players, because I've got an extra thought or narrative. But the Gobert thing, you're right. And this is something where sites go out and they aggressively change their rankings, when there's no reason to, other than they're getting blasted for their rankings. And then they go, oh man, where's my sleepers gone? But then you get your sleepers based on other people's opinions. Oh, Rudy Gobert, man, he can't even stay on the court in the playoffs. He's trash. The team hates him. They're going to trade him. Donovan Mitchell, he's worth $15 million a year. Whatever nonsense goes out there. So people get down on him.
And that is a narrative, and that playoff narrative. And same thing's going to happen in terms of Donovan Mitchell going too high, Jamal Murray perhaps going too high, TJ Warren perhaps going too high, because those narrative things that get assigned to players, it really does impact their value. And I needed some blocks on this team. We're talking roto, so I need to be relatively competitive in each category. And yeah, look, Gobert is a bad free throw shooter, but Steph is great. Paul George is great, and they're good volume free throw shooters. I'm just going to build that category up later. Gobert did his annual, hey, I've really improved my free throw shooting in training camp, which literally don't ever believe in it until it happens. It happens, but yeah, I'm happy with him there. But what I did want to talk to you, because another thing, it just came into my head, and I want to get this off my chest.
Yeah, hit him.
About narratives and players. I did a show on points leagues a couple of weeks ago, and I was saying like how the whole points league scoring is really tailored towards people who score a lot of points, right? Because an average contribution in a points category in a fantasy league is like it's 16 points per game, and average steals is 1 steal per game. Yet in a points league it's 1 point per point and 3 points per steal, right? Those numbers are way off.
So
I said, look, if you want to actually make it even, let's make steals. Let's make them 15. Let's make them 14 points, and let's see how that evens it up. And then someone said to me, yeah, it's trash because then you'd have Chris Paul averaging more than James Harden, and you don't want that. And I said, well, what's interesting about that is that narrative of Harden being a bad defender. He averaged more steals per game than Chris Paul last year, but because we have it drilled into us from YouTube videos that Harden's a trash defender, and therefore Chris Paul's going to be unbelievable because steals are worth so much. You don't actually you're not looking into the numbers by thinking that way. And I think that's really important to note is that narrative that's out there. Harden averaged almost 2 steals and 1 block per game, yet he's the worst defender in the league. So I think that's really important to get that, to understand what the numbers actually are versus the narratives around the players.
That's 100% agree. It's really, this is extraordinarily helpful on the gambling side as well, where you're taking a storyline that to be false. And with Harden, obviously he does have his issues in defensive effort at times, but he gets steals and he gets blocks. And from a fantasy standpoint, that's all that matters. 2.7 combined defensive stats for a shooting guard is massive. I don't care if you're the number 1 or number 100 guy. That's a really big number. And it's for guys across the board. We were just talking about with Rudy Gobert. Were you surprised he didn't fall farther? I thought he might fall farther than this year.
I reckon if I didn't take him here, he would have probably gone another 6-7 picks later, maybe even another 10. I've seen him go, I've seen him go in the 40s in some drafts, which is obviously way too low. Because Gobert's just got a standard of what he does, and he's just going to do that. And I don't really see, he's not an upside guy, but he's not a downside guy either.
Yeah, he's plug and play. Your 4th round pick, this draft actually happened before the trade to Washington, so we can do a reboot and see if it changes anything for better or worse, was Russell Westbrook at 44, who quietly didn't have nearly as bad a season last year as I think everybody wants to talk about. And this probably feeds into what you were saying as well. He got picked on hard because in the playoffs, his game gets exposed. You need to be able to back somebody out to the 3-point line, and he couldn't. The Lakers were just like, all right, fine, shoot threes. And, he does, and he doesn't draw iron half the time. But last year in 9-Cat, he was right on this mark. He was 43. He sits back-to-backs now. And then he got traded to Washington, back to Scotty Brooks. So do you think he goes higher? Does he go lower? How did you feel about getting him at 44? Give me the full Russell Westbrook treatment.
Well, this mock was a few weeks ago, so I don't remember my exact thought at the time. But look, it's an absolute steal to me. Like, his value is going up in Washington, I think, because he will get more assists. He'll probably get more rebounds. He'll get more scoring opportunities. He'll have more of a chance to be the driver than he was in Houston. He still had huge usage in Houston, 34%, which interestingly was higher than his usage his last season in OKC, which I didn't know until I just looked at it. But again, another narrative guy, Westbrook, you can't draft him because he destroys your field goal percentage and free throws. Well, he was at 47 and 76 last year, and if that's destroyed, then I don't know. Then I don't know what other players are doing, because that is not even close to destroying your percentages. And the year before, yes, he was a 66% free throw guy and shot 43 from the field, but he just stopped shooting threes last year. And in the last 2 months of the year, I think 9% of his shots were from three, and therefore his field goal percentage went up. And if he continues to do that, if he continues to learn that lesson and the free throws are fine, then he's not destroying your percentages. And maybe he does, but he literally didn't do that last year. And I think that, again, that's the narrative. Oh, Russ, you got to punt free throws. No, you don't, because there was one year where it was bad, and it's still not great, but it's not a terrible hole to be in.
Yeah, that 1 year in OKC really it gave the impression it was a mental thing more than anything. And like you said, he's not a world beater in free throw percent, but 76, 77 is pretty different than 65 or 66. The big difference in value, certainly looking from OKC to Houston, was that he was kind of shooting more and rebounding and passing less. You think that flips back to sort of the old Russ now that he's in Washington under Scott Brooks again, and it's Bradley Beal as the other alpha instead of James Harden?
Yeah, look, I think the rebounds and assists, especially the assists, will go up this year. I don't know if they're going back to triple-double level. I'm pretty sure they won't, but I can see his rebounds and assists jumping up, even if his scoring dips, because he averaged 27 a game last year. But I'm not sure I expect that fully, especially because the pace that the Rockets played at was pretty high, and we don't know if the Wizards will necessarily play at that same pace. So that's a question mark there. But yeah, look, I'm really happy to get him at that spot.
Yeah, I got to think he's probably going to start getting drafted a little earlier than mid-40s. I think that I assume the consensus. Yeah, right. Isn't the consensus that he's going to do more in Washington? I think so.
Yeah, he'll go in the top. He'll go in the top 20 of pretty much every draft. I'm guessing.
Yeah, so that's a big leaper. Your 5th round pick is very much an old man, LaMarcus Aldridge. Were you doing this just so that we could talk about it on the podcast? I assume you were.
Yeah, of course. That was always my thought. I've taken him in a couple of mock drafts, and people shit on it. Oh man, what are you doing? Aldridge way too high. He should be in the 70s. Like, what are you guys talking 70s? About? Like, I know he's 34 years of age, but again, the narrative that he didn't play in the bubble, so people don't have that idea in his head. And the Spurs aren't going to just sit him down. He's just going to look. He did drop off, but he still averaged 18 and 8. I think he had a career high in blocks. He started taking more threes. Look, in this area again, this is a guy who the upside is probably limited, but is he ranked between 40 and 55 at the end of the year? Like, almost definitely.
Yeah, it's a gimme. It's a tap-in. He was at 9. Yeah, like you said, he was 19 and 7 and some odd last year. 49% from the field, 83% at the free throw line. Big man that doesn't hurt you in free throw percent. 2.3 combined defensive stats last year. Even if there is a slight step back, he still can beat this mark. He was 27th in per-game numbers in pre-bubble action. And like you said, he didn't play in the bubble. This one we don't need to talk about that much because everybody knows how much I love LaMarcus Aldridge. So let's keep going. 6th round pick.
Legacy CRM platforms have made you compromise for far too long. With HubSpot's CRM platform, you don't have to choose between enterprise tools that are powerful or easy to use. It gives you both, so your marketing, sales, and service teams can align with ease, accelerate sales, and anticipate every customer need. Finally, there's a CRM platform that helps you run better so you can grow better, without complexity ever getting in the way. Learn more at HubSpot.com.
Is another guy, and honestly, Josh, if you hadn't taken him here, I don't know when he would have gone. This actually might be the player whose ADP surprised me more than anyone else in all of fantasy basketball this year. And it's a weird thing to say about a guy who's not really a buzzy name or an anti-buzzy name, and that's Marcus Smart, his ADP is 82. 82. You got him, I lost track of where we were in counting here. You got him at 68, so by all accounts, he probably would have gone a little bit further. But looking at last year, Marcus Smart was 62nd. 62. His ADP is 20 slots lower than where his per-game number was last year in 9-cat on a team that lost Gordon Hayward and is going to be without Kemba Walker for who knows how many games this year. Please explain how that logic makes any sense.
No, you can't justify it. There's no way of justifying him being 20 spots worse than what he was last season. He played 32 minutes a night last year. And he only started 2/3 of the games. And in the 40 games that he started, he played 34 minutes a night. So let's give him the 34 minutes a night. And he's going to play, from what I understand, from what I've heard, is that he's going to be the starting point guard when Kemba's out. It's not going to be Jeff Teague. It's going to be Marcus Smart. So there's your assist bump, usage bump, minutes bump. He gets steals like nobody's business. He gets rebounds. It's an absolute no-brainer to me at this spot. I think he's probably going to be a top 50 player this year, to be honest. And if you get him at 80, everyone else is asleep.
Yeah, what? I really want someone to explain why something like this happens. It's not like he had anything bad. There was no bad press for Marcus Smart. It's not like some of these other guys.
This This is what it is, Dan. It's because people look at it and go, "Oh my God, this guy's the worst shooter. God, he shoots so bad," and they go, "Well, therefore he must be a bad fantasy player." But again, 2 steals a game. Yeah, look, I'll take it. He hits 2.5 threes a game. Absolutely, like that's where the value is. But the narrative is Marcus Smart, terrible offensive player. I have had many people tell me that Marcus Smart's one of the worst offensive players in the league, and you're just wrong. Like it's just absolutely 100% wrong. This dude's an 84% free throw shooter as well. There's plenty to like about Marcus. I've loved him for fantasy for years, and he's been a top 100 guy, for 3 of the last 4 years, and it's about to go higher than that this year, as he, I reckon, plays the most minutes in his career.
Yeah, that one, I cannot mentally connect it. There's a gap in my brain, and if he really does stick in that 80 some odd ADP range, which it seems like at this point he probably will, I don't get it. I'll probably end up with Marcus Smart on almost every damn team. Your 7th round pick, and I have to make sure I get the number right on this. This is at 77, is the rapidly improving Colin Sexton. I will admit, I dumped on this guy for a while, but in the second half last year, he turned a corner. He was very good from, it was before the All-Star break, but about the last 2.5 months or so of the season, he was more in that 60, 70, 80 range, and that's about where you got him this year. So I'm going to try to ask a clever question as opposed to just saying, tell me about Colin Sexton. Where do you see his next potential step forward?
I don't know if I do see another step forward. To be honest, I don't really think this guy is a franchise piece or a great player moving forward. But the dude's averaging 20-plus points on really strong percentage numbers from the field and from the free throw line. He doesn't do anything else. He doesn't rebound. He doesn't hit threes in high volume. He doesn't get steals. He's blocked maybe what? Let's have a look. I'm going to have a look at these numbers because they're going to be fun. He's blocked 13 shots in his NBA career.
Yeah.
So he's not helping in that area. That's a shout out to Evan Fournier and his sort of production in that area. But if you're getting at this round, whatever it is, round 7, a 20-point per game scorer on high efficiency, well, that's just perfect for a roto because you can't get that scoring anywhere else at this point in the draft. If he's not getting worse than 3 assists per game, I'll tell you that. So if he improves there, then that's a win. And everything else, it's really only way to go is up from 3 rebounds, 3 assists, and 1 steal. And he was still like a top 85 guy last year. So yeah, it's again, his ADP at one point, I don't know what it is now, but it was like 100 and something. Like, we expecting him to be significantly worse than last season. I don't think he's that good. I think there's a real chance in 2 years' time Kevin Porter's a better player than him, but not this year. And I'll take the numbers while they're here.
Yeah, ADP of 86 right now on Colin Sexton.
Yeah,
so
that's
still,
coming. Yep.
It's on the move, but still relatively low. 8th round pick. That's now coming back in the 8th round is at 92. So there's a pretty good gap here between your 2 selections, and that's Markelle Fultz. And I admit this one I don't have a strong opinion on either way. I'm sort of my jury's out on Markelle because if he takes a step forward, he is a starting point guard for an NBA team with no real legitimate backup with DJ Augustine gone, so it's kind of his show to run for the most part on a Magic team that got a lot faster the second half last year. So what are the expectations for Markelle Fultz? How does he jump into a more viable fantasy position? Because last year, even in starters minutes, he did have some problems, but you can see there are areas where a quick tweak here and there makes him a pretty good fantasy player.
He's a guy that in a lot of my mock draft shows that I've been doing, he always gets taken off me, and I'm not happy about it. I didn't realize I even drafted him in this draft, considering we did that a few weeks ago. So I'm pretty happy to get him here. But the rationale is simple, Dan. Last year was his first season in the NBA, let's be honest. Like, he didn't play those first 2 years. He played under 28 minutes a night. DJ August is not there. Steve Clifford, like if there's one coach who hates rookies equally to Tom Thibodeau, it's Steve Clifford, right? So Cole Anthony's not coming in and playing 20 plus. Fultz is getting 30, minimum 30, 31, 32 a night. And even if everything else stays the same as what he did last year, if he doesn't improve his 3-point shooting, or if his free throw rate and free throw percentage doesn't improve, then he'll still be a top 100 guy just by the fact of playing 4 to 5 extra minutes per night. So yeah, that's sort of what I'm looking at here. Like, who is going to get an almost guaranteed increase? Who else is getting those minutes? It has to be him.
Yeah, there's no one else.
They're not going to run Michael Carter-Williams 24 minutes at point guard. They see him as a 2 and a 3. So it's going to be Fultz. And again, this is not expecting any improvement, just 3 or 4 extra minutes, and he beats that number from last year, and he comes in here, and like even if he averages 14 points and 6 assists, it's good value here because again, like points with Colin Sexton last round, you can't get assists at this point in the draft really that easily. So I needed them, and I got them.
Yeah, this is one of those guys where I use my sort of mental bar in space. I look up in the sky and I see that bar, and you're thinking, okay, well, a worst case scenario for Malkel is like, I don't know, 110, top 100, top 110. And the best case is he blows past 92 where you got him to something like 60 or 75, and that's a reasonable chance to take as you get to this point in the draft. So the logic adds up. I actually like your 9th round pick. I don't know. I feel like this is a fairly polarizing player, but we know that his upside is crazy. And, we're around pick 100 now, 101, actually. We're looking at the real numbers here. Once you get to that range of a draft, you're looking for guys that can dramatically outperform their draft position. And frankly, there just aren't that many on the board that have done it before. And you have Hassan Whiteside at 101. The Kings seem just kingsy enough to give him 25 or 26 minutes a night, which is probably dumb from a reality standpoint, but for fantasy, if he gets that many minutes, he's a top 50 guy.
Well, as I say, you know this from talking to Aaron about what the Kings do, and they're going to make the wrong decision. Like as simple as that. Rashawn Holmes is a better player than Hassan Whiteside, but Hassan Whiteside was the 20th ranked player in 30 minutes a game. So at pick 100, I don't think he's getting 30 minutes a game. If he gets 24 minutes a game, he smashes the top 100. He gets blocks, he gets rebounds, his field goal percentage is through the roof, his free throws were actually a little bit improved last year. And again, if they do the wrong thing and they say, well, we love you, Hassan, sorry we got rid of you 8 years ago, and they play him 28 minutes a night, then this probably wins the league for me, to be honest. Yeah.
It's a one with a tiny bit of risk, but so much upside.
He should not be getting this low. Look, if you don't like him, I hate him. I think he's a terrible player. I think he's absolutely horrible. But NBA teams don't agree, and the Kings, I also think they're terrible. So it's a match made in heaven. So if they play him, and you can't let him go outside the top 100. And you know what? Even if they realize and go, you know what, our 2 best centers are actually Holmes and Bagley, and we play him 10 minutes a night, I'm at pick 100 here. See you later. I'll just get someone off the waiver wire. Who cares? Like, you drop your last 4 or 5 blokes anyway.
Yeah, cast him off into the ocean. It's a chance worth taking. And then I only went 10 rounds in this draft, so this one I think is a round where everybody was like, all right, let me get something interesting in here. And your interesting was Tyler Hero, who, I mean, we saw it in the bubble. The dude has serious NBA kind of star level potential. The question I think is probably, when does he get to actually show it? Can he get the efficiency to a point where it clicks for him? This is one where I'm going to leave it a little more open-ended for you here. Talk to me a little bit about Tyler Hero. What do you expect this year in terms of growth? Miami is into this run-it-back mentality. It sure seems like he's just jumped way over Kendrick Nunn for any minutes at guard outside of Butler and Goran Dragic. Is there enough for him? How does this season play out?
Yeah, I'm looking back on it. I don't love this pick at this point, but I think I would have taken Killian Hayes, but he went a couple before me. I think he starts, and you're right. Look, Kendrick Nunn's terrible, and Kendrick Nunn, Dan, I don't know what you think. I think he's not even in the rotation this year, to be honest. He's their 5th guard because there's Duncan Robinson, there's Goran Dragic, there's Tyler Hero, there's Avery Bradley. I don't know where Nunn fits in there. And it's not even including if you want to count Jimmy Butler as a guard. So I don't think Nunn's even going to play, to be honest, most nights. I didn't love this pick of Hero. I think he's a little bit overrated. I think his ADP is high on some sites. It's like 60 or 70 or rank on some sites, which is too high
way too
for
high.
me. And his efficiency is a problem at times. But yeah, look, he's going to get that opportunity. I think he probably starts. I think he gets some playmaking chances on the Heat. And that's, at this point, again, we're sort of looking at this as a last round flyer scenario. I probably wouldn't have picked him if I have a look at who else went after. No, actually, I would have picked him over everyone that went after him in this draft, but there's probably some other guys on the board I may have chosen. But this is I'd actually feel okay in a lot of cases picking him here in a real draft. It's not my favorite pick.
Yeah, he's at 116 here, so that's your 5th to the end of the mock.
Well, let me rephrase that. I love it at 116. I think that there's value.
Yeah, might as well, because kind of for the same reason you were talking about in the 9th round, guys. These dudes that get drafted in the 115 range in most fantasy drafts, well, I mean, I don't know what the percentage is, but I got to think that like 60 to 70% of these guys get dropped pretty early in the year, too.
Oh, yeah. Look, in round 9, maybe not as many, but it's really commonplace to have your squad of 13 players have only 7 guys that you drafted on it, excluding trades.
Yep, agree. All right, so that's the end of the mock. I do want to make sure that I let you unwrap the present. This is sort of like okay, you guys, you stuck with us for the mock breakdown. Not that this was torturous for the listeners or anything, presenting that the wrong way. But this is
just for me.
That's right. This is the treat at the end. Give us, and you know that my quest to remove the word sleeper from the vernacular has failed. So give us a Josh Lloyd.
Hang on a second. Okay, why do you want to get that out of there? I'm into. I love hearing people trying to change terms and change standards. Let's go. So I'm in on this. I want to hear why you want to get rid of sleeper.
So one of my problems, I think, in my quest is that I didn't provide a viable alternative. I had no suggestion for what to call it. I just don't feel like I gotta have it. I gotta have my marketing straight. I gotta have a damn name for it. I feel like no one's really asleep anymore. Don't we all kind of know everything at this point?
Yeah, I feel like that's the case.
Yeah. So I don't know what to call it. Yeah. I got nothing on that end. So I'm diving back in. I failed.
It's going to be upside something. Yeah. I'm not totally in on sleeper. It's just such a common term. But this completely diverts from the point of your question.
No, I'm glad you let me try to explain myself so I could trip over my feet a little bit there. It's for that reason, like you said, like an upside guy, like because everybody knows. Anybody that's playing relatively serious fantasy that's listening to this podcast or your podcast is pretty aware of like pretty much everyone ranked inside the top 150 on their draft board. So there aren't really guys that are asleep. It's just a different assessment of value, and that doesn't roll off the tongue like sleeper does. So yes, I'll turn it back over to you. Give me the Josh Lloyd upside value play that I yet to be named fun buzzword for.
Well, Dan, because I like you so much, I'm going to do you a favor here. I'm going to give you 2.
Hell yeah!
Darius Garland, I think, is absolutely someone I'm just taking with that last pick because he's a starting point guard. He was trash last year. There was a lot of reasons why he was bad, but who cares? Like, who are you getting at the end? Am I taking Joe Harris or Danny Green with literally 0 upside? Or am I taking a bloke that maybe is a top 70 player if everything goes right? So Darius Garland, but the one, if you want to talk guys who you might actually be asleep on, my man Facundo Campazzo. I think there's a real chance that he is a starter for Denver. And even if he isn't and plays 24 minutes off the bench, because he can play next to Jamal Murray, he can play the 2 and the 1. You're getting a guy that can maybe give you over a steal and 5 assists per game off a waiver wire or with the last pick. And if he does what I think he might do, I think there's some value in Campazzo, and literally no one's going to be targeting him apart from me. But he's a pretty common one that I like to throw in as my last round pick.
Holy hell, that is an actual sleeper because I don't even know how to spell that.
Just call him Faku, which is just a great way of being able to almost swear, but being legit with the name.
Yes, we're not going to get a YouTube strike for it because we're actually talking about a guy's first name. That is Facundo. Campazzo, Campazzo. That is, you know what? We can keep sleeper in the vernacular because, fully asleep on that dude. The great, the mighty Josh Lloyd. Thank you so much, my man. I always appreciate your visits on the pod.
No worries, Dan.
He is Josh Lloyd. He is RedRock_B-ball on Twitter. You likely follow him already, but if you don't, you ought to do that right now. What a day, guys, huh? What an absolute blast in what, again, I think may very well be our biggest show of all time. Brew and Josh Lloyd on the same episode. Holy hell. Check out our buddies over at manscaped.com. Promo code is hoopball20 to get 20% off and free shipping on your manscaped.com order. That is the lawnmower, the trimmer. That's their full trimmer. Technically a sideburn trimmer. I know the way they market it, but you can use it on anything you want. I use it on my neck, for instance. My neck tends to be a little pinchy when I use it with a normal sideburn trimmer or a razor, so I use manscaped.com instead. They've got the Weed Whacker ear and nose hair trimmer. I'll admit, I haven't used that one yet, but I bet it's freaking awesome. And the shears, that's really cool. The nail kit, that's something that I think all of us could use, especially here in a pandemic where, we're all like the before picture of somebody that hasn't really taken care of themselves this year. They've got lotions, they've got powders, they've got swag, you want Manscaped t-shirts, boxers, whatever, all of that you can get for 20% off and free shipping with promo code hoopball20. Really great company to work with from our perspective as well. So throw a little coin their way and get yourself something nice. Again, a reminder here, hit me up on Twitter at Dan Besbris, DanBesbris. If you want to join a Hoopball League, last call. If you want to be part of our DFS team, this is the recruiting pitch. Or if you just want to talk fantasy sports, that's the place to get in touch with me. Please drop a 5-star review on the podcast. I beg of you. We all work so hard to get this thing out 5 days a week, and especially this time of year when there's so much going on. If you like the show, please, please, please find a way to put a 5-star review on it. Whatever platform you're listening to it on, I will be forever grateful. And once again, a reminder, the Fantasy Pass is $4.99. This was Fantasy NBA Today, a whopper of a Friday. Have a wonderful weekend, everybody. Back with you on Monday. We're going to start going through some more data. We've got more data to go through. New Yahoo numbers, new mock results. We never actually went through this mock we're working on right now kind of straight through. And we also have more pod hits. We got Jonas Nader coming up next week at some point. We got Scott Bogman. It's weird to call him by his first name. We got Bogman coming up at some point next week. Adam Stock will be on our show next week as well. Matt Smith of BBM, he'll be on our show next week as well. And, we're running out of days before the season starts. So, again, big thank you to Josh Lloyd. Big thank you to the Big Dog Brew. I am Dan Besbris. We'll talk to you guys on Monday. So long.
This has been a Hoop Ball presentation.